Becky Lynch explodes on Seth Rollins, accuses him of cheating with Rhea Ripley. What just happened between WWE's power couple? Becky Lynch shocks the WWE Universe with jaw-dropping accusations against Seth Rollins involving none other than Rhea Ripley. In this dramatic backstage moment, tensions boil over as the man confronts her husband, Seth Rollins, and calls him out for getting too close to the nightmare. Is there truth behind the rumors? Or is this all part of a bigger WWE storyline twist? Get ready for betrayal, drama, and potential fallout that could shake up the WWE landscape. A chill ran through the halls of the WWE Performance Center. Not because of the air conditioning, but because something unseen had cracked. Something real. Something raw. And in a place where drama is scripted and betrayals are often business, this time, it wasn't part of the show. It started with a silence. The kind that hangs heavy over a room even before a storm. The kind that lingers in eye contact, in muttered whispers, in the space between two people who were once inseparable. Becky Lynch, the man, wasn't herself. Not in interviews. Not in the ring. Not backstage. Her laughter, once wild and defiant, was gone. Her eyes, once fire, now wandered like they were searching for answers in places they knew they wouldn't find them. And the reason? His name was whispered like a curse. Seth Rollins. Her husband. Her tag partner in life and occasionally in kayfabe. A man whose loyalty she had never questioned, until now. And the name beside his? Rhea Ripley. They said it started innocently. Long training sessions. A mutual respect between top-tier talent. A shared disdain for authority. Rhea was sharp, powerful, electric. Seth? Charismatic, intense, unpredictable. WWE insiders had seen it before, bonding between superstars is common. But this felt different. The kind of different that makes producers exchange glances. That makes camera crew double-check if they're picking up audio from locker room corridors. That makes friends stop asking questions because they already know the answers. For weeks, the signs were there. Rhea and Seth laughing too long between commercial breaks. Becky skipping post-match interviews without explanation. Seth staying behind for film review while Becky waited in the car. And Rhea? Posting cryptic Instagram stories. Mirror selfies with lyrics about secrets and betrayal. No tags. No captions. Just energy. Suggestion. Enough to stir curiosity. Enough to start a fire. But no one expected what happened last Friday. WWE SmackDown had wrapped. The cameras had stopped rolling. Most of the roster was already gone. But backstage, Becky was still there. Alone. Standing outside Seth's private locker room. The door was ajar. Voices floated through the space, faint but familiar. And then suddenly, it wasn't faint anymore. I've been patient, Becky's voice rang out, trembling but sharp. But I'm not a damn fool. Security froze. Crew members backed away. Someone tried to grab their phone, only to be stopped by a producer. This wasn't going on air. What are you even accusing me of? Seth replied, his voice strained. She stepped into the room. I'm accusing you of betraying me. With her. The silence that followed was louder than any shout. She's just a colleague. Don't, Becky cut him off. Don't insult me by pretending this is about wrestling drills and brand meetings. According to a source inside the room, the confrontation lasted less than 5 minutes, but it felt like a lifetime. Becky's words were deliberate. Not shouted. Not screamed. But cracked. Like a woman who had cried all the tears she had and was now speaking with what was left of her heart. She mentioned the texts. The missed dinners. The nights he claimed to be at production meetings while his phone was suddenly off. She mentioned Rhea's lipstick on the inside of a discarded jacket Seth brought home. She mentioned knowing the difference between work chemistry and emotional infidelity. Seth didn't deny it. But he didn't admit anything either. And that, more than anything, broke her. Witnesses say she walked out without another word. Past the catering table. Past a stunned Dominic Mysterio. Past Rhea Ripley herself, who had just arrived from a meeting upstairs. The two women locked eyes. No words. No nod. Just pain and power. Becky's eyes glistened, but she didn't blink. And Rhea? She smirked. It was the kind of smirk that didn't confirm guilt, but didn't care to deny it either. Hours later, Becky's team issued a statement. Becky Lynch is taking personal time. We ask for privacy. No denial. No damage control. Just cold, clinical withdrawal. Seth said nothing. His social media went dark. No stories. No posts. Not even a like. Rhea posted a picture. Black and white. A hand gripping a chain-link fence. The caption? Trapped hearts break loudest. And that was all it took. The WWE Universe exploded. Fan forums lit up. Rumors became headlines. Podcasts speculated whether this was the ultimate work or the ugliest reality. But those closest to the couple knew, this wasn't part of the script. This wasn't booking. This was personal. In the locker room, the tension was suffocating. Friends didn't know which side to stand on. Bayley, who once rode with Becky on European tours, reportedly told a producer, she deserves better. Finn Balor, Seth's longtime friend, refused to comment. Bianca Belair sent Becky a private message, one that reportedly read, "We've got your back. No matter what." But the damage was done. And the emotional spiral that followed was visible, if you knew where to look. Becky cancelled her next appearance on Monday Night Raw. Not because of an injury. But because, as one insider revealed, she couldn't look him in the eye and pretend everything was fine. Seth, however, showed up. He walked out to his entrance music like nothing had happened. Dressed in a blood-red blazer. A grin stretched across his face. But it was hollow. Too wide. Too forced. He cut a promo. Said nothing of the incident. But ended the segment by cryptically saying, "The truth always rises. Eventually." And Rhea? She stood in the shadows backstage. Watching. Arms crossed. Expression unreadable. By the next day, a leak surfaced. A voicemail, allegedly from Becky to an unnamed WWE official. "I need time," she said. "And if Seth's going to keep pretending this is just business, then maybe I need to stop treating our marriage like it's not part of the business too." That line hit harder than any steel chair shot. The story was no longer about just two wrestlers. It was about a woman betrayed. A husband cornered. And a third party who might have known exactly what she was doing. Or worse, didn't care. What made it worse was how public their love had been. The wedding. The baby. The interviews where Seth called her his best friend. The segments where they stood side by side. Champions. Lovers. Partners. WWE's golden couple. But gold can tarnish. And sometimes, it melts. A former creative team member compared it to the fall of Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth. Only this time, they said, no one's sure if there's going to be a reconciliation storyline. Because what Becky Lynch felt wasn't jealousy. It was abandonment. And what Seth Rollins did wasn't just questionable. It was betrayal, dressed as business. WWE has seen scandals before. But never like this. This time, the curtain didn't just drop. It ripped. And behind it stood three people, each holding a piece of the same broken vow. Becky Lynch. Seth Rollins. And Rhea Ripley. What comes next may change everything. Back at the hotel that night, Becky Lynch sat alone on the 17th floor balcony of a Los Angeles high-rise, overlooking a city that didn't care about her pain. Her phone buzzed endlessly. Missed calls from WWE officials. A text from Triple H simply reading, "Talk when you're ready." But the one name that didn't appear on her screen was Seth's. He hadn't reached out. Not once. Not a call. Not a message. Not even a read receipt on the last thing she'd sent hours before the SmackDown blow-up. "We need to talk tonight. Alone. Please don't lie to me." It remained unread. A former WWE interviewer who had traveled with both Becky and Seth for overseas promotions recalled how they used to be. The way they laughed at airport lounges, passed headphones between them during flights, or exchanged glances that said everything even in silence. They were solid, she said. Not perfect. But there was a rhythm. A trust. That rhythm was now broken. And trust? Shattered. Sources close to Becky said she was battling more than just heartbreak. She was questioning everything, her role, her identity, even her future in WWE. For years, she was the man. But now? Now she was just a woman trying to breathe in a space that no longer felt safe. Not because of fans. Not because of management. But because her home had crumbled from within. And yet, in classic Becky Lynch fashion, she didn't fall apart publicly. She vanished. No tweets. No interviews. No appearances at events she was once advertised for. WWE quietly pulled her from promotional graphics. No explanation offered. Fans speculated she was injured. Others believed she was being repackaged. But the truth was uglier. She was grieving. Not a death, but a betrayal that felt just as permanent. Meanwhile, Rhea Ripley thrived. The Nightmare appeared on Raw the following week with a cold fire in her eyes. She said nothing about the rumors. But her actions spoke volumes. In a backstage segment, she crossed paths with Dominic Mysterio, who offered a sly grin and said, "Looks like you're trending again." Rhea didn't smile. She looked directly into the camera and said, "Some people break. Others evolve." Fans erupted. Some cheered. Others booed. But one thing was clear, she wasn't hiding. Seth Rollins, however, was cracking. In the days after the confrontation, his energy changed. He was still flashy. Still flamboyant. But something in his tone rang hollow. Backstage agents reported he kept to himself more. His entrances became longer. Louder. As if the volume of his character might drown out the silence inside him. But nothing did. He was booked to defend his title at an upcoming house show in Detroit. But the match never happened. Minutes before going on, he reportedly told a producer, "I'm not in the headspace to fake it tonight." It wasn't a tantrum. It wasn't ego. It was exhaustion. Emotional. Mental. Moral. He sat alone in his locker room for hours. One camera operator who passed by noted he was just staring into the mirror. Hands steepled. Silent. The same man who once screamed, "Burn it down," now looked like he had been the one burned. And somewhere, in a different city, Becky watched the footage. She watched his interview. The one where Seth was asked, "Is there something going on with Rhea?" His answer? "I'm not going to dignify that question." Next. And that, more than a confession, felt like a slap. Because silence doesn't protect people. It buries them. She closed her laptop. And then she opened a journal. According to a close friend, Becky had started writing again. Not for fans. Not for creative. But for herself. It was the only place where she didn't have to perform. The only space where the pain could live unedited. And in those pages, she asked questions she never thought she'd have to face. Was she enough? Did he ever really love her? Was Rhea Ripley just a spark? Or the flame he'd been chasing all along? WWE, for its part, tried to contain the narrative. Executives urged Seth to go public. To issue a statement. Even a tweet. Something to cool the rumors. He refused. It's personal, he told a writer. Not everything belongs in a promo. Rhea offered no such restraint. During a post-match interview, when asked if the rumors were true, she smiled faintly and whispered into the mic, "Truth doesn't need to scream." The clip went viral. And suddenly, this wasn't just a relationship scandal. It was the storyline. Whether intentional or not, fans couldn't look away. TikTok exploded with edits of Becky's last matches. Side-by-sides of Rhea and Seth's interactions. Slow zooms on Becky's distant expression in the days before the blow-up. The WWE Universe was divided. Some rallied behind Becky, calling her the wronged warrior. The Queen betrayed. Others sided with Rhea, saying she was unapologetic, raw, real. And then there were those who said it was all a work. That nothing in WWE happens without permission. But those people weren't backstage when Becky cried behind a locked dressing room door. They didn't hear Seth mutter, "I didn't mean to ruin everything," when he thought no one was listening. They didn't see the way Rhea Ripley looked away when someone asked if Becky had called her. Because Becky hadn't. And she wouldn't. Because when a woman like Becky Lynch is betrayed, she doesn't beg. She bleeds. Quietly. Proudly. And then, she rebuilds. Word began to spread that she was training in isolation. Hitting harder. Pushing longer. Not talking. Just moving. A silent storm gathering force. A return was coming. But not for reconciliation. For reckoning. One trainer whispered, "She's coming back with a target." And it's not just Rhea. It's everyone who stood by and let this happen. The WWE Universe may have watched a power couple fall apart. But what they didn't realize is that this wasn't the end of a love story. It was the beginning of a war. And when Becky Lynch walks back through that curtain, eyes cold and fists clenched, she won't be looking for answers. She'll be looking for blood. Backstage morale began to fracture the moment Becky disappeared from television. What once felt like a united front, WWE's modern golden era of empowered female superstars, was quietly crumbling under the weight of one woman's silence and another woman's smirk. Bianca Belair noticed it first. "The locker room's cold," she reportedly said to a producer. "It's not just Becky. It's the way nobody's saying her name." Bayley agreed. No one dared bring up the confrontation in public. Not on air. Not in guerrilla. Not even in locker room banter. Because it wasn't part of a storyline. It was real. Too real. And in WWE, real pain makes people uncomfortable. It gets ignored, swept under promos and booking sheets. But this time, it kept bleeding through. Triple H had been watching it unfold from behind the scenes. According to sources inside Creative, he was torn. Torn between protecting Becky's space and salvaging the emotional chaos now threatening to consume one of WWE's highest-profile storylines. One night, after a closed-door meeting, he was heard saying, "They want to turn this into TV, but she's living it." He wasn't wrong. Becky had withdrawn completely. No calls returned. No merchandise meetings. No photo shoots. Even her team was instructed to remain silent. She had one focus now, reclaiming her center. And her fury. Meanwhile, Seth Rollins continued to perform, but something had shifted. In a high-stakes tag match alongside Cody Rhodes, he missed cues. He moved slower. His famous smirk, gone. Fans noticed. He looked lost, one ringside viewer tweeted. Like he was wrestling through fog. After the match, he walked backstage and headed straight to his dressing room. Alone. No celebration. No interview. He sat on a bench, peeled off his boots, and stared down at the floor. The man who once called himself a visionary now looked like he couldn't see 5 feet ahead of him. As for Rhea Ripley, she was thriving. Her matches became more vicious. Her mic work sharper. And in interviews, she dodged every question about Becky or Seth. But the subtext screamed louder than any answer ever could. One tweet. One photo. One smirk, that was all it took to keep the flames burning. Then came the bombshell. A backstage security staffer leaked footage to a tabloid outlet. Blurry, shaky, but unmistakable. A moment caught in the hallway outside catering, Rhea Ripley brushing past Seth Rollins, stopping, leaning in, whispering something. He didn't smile. He didn't nod. He just looked away. But what made the footage explode across social media was what she whispered. Audio enhanced by the tabloid's editors revealed it clearly. "She'll never forgive you. But I will." The WWE Universe ignited. Forgive him for what? What happened that night? What did Seth do that broke Becky Lynch, the most resilient woman in modern wrestling? Inside sources hinted at one final straw. A secret that hadn't reached the public yet. According to 2 writers close to creative, Becky had found out that Seth had been in contact with Rhea long before their on-screen alliances began. Quiet phone calls. Unofficial brand crossover ideas. DM conversations that disappeared. And then came the most damning discovery. An anonymous tipster sent Becky screenshots of an email. It was from Seth. Subject line, about the promo, and the kiss idea, that was the moment. Not because a kiss happened. But because he was planning it with Rhea, without telling Becky. Without considering her. And maybe, just maybe, because he wanted it. Becky's friend, a former agent, said she didn't throw anything. She didn't scream. She didn't break down. She just sat quietly, reread the email, and said, it was never just work. The betrayal wasn't in the body. It was in the intention. He chose secrecy. He chose ambition. He chose someone else's energy, over honesty with the woman who stood by him through scandals, surgeries, and stadiums. And now? Becky Lynch was no longer heartbroken. She was ready. Rumors began to swirl that she had demanded one thing from WWE upon her return, Rhea Ripley. One-on-one. Not in a mixed tag. Not in a triple threat. But in a match where only one woman could walk out. And it wouldn't be about gold. It would be about revenge. One backstage source said she looked Triple H in the eyes and told him, I'm not here to rebuild. I'm here to remind people who I am. WWE creative scrambled. They knew the stakes. This wasn't just a match. This was an implosion waiting to be televised. The storyline wasn't fabricated, it was volcanic, real, and uncontrollable. And so they gave it a name. Unforgiven. A pay-per-view headlined by 2 women who had crossed every boundary. Not just of wrestling, but of trust, of truth, of love and fury. Becky versus Rhea. The promos were dark. Moody. Spoken in whispers. Close-up shots of Becky's eyes. Audio of that leaked hallway confrontation. Shadows of Rhea wrapping her wrists in tape, smiling into the lens. And Seth? He wasn't booked. He wasn't interviewed. He wasn't even in the building. Because this wasn't about him anymore. This was about the storm he triggered and the 2 women now standing at its center. When the match was finally announced, Becky posted one sentence to social media, "Forgiveness is a luxury I'm no longer interested in." No hashtags. No emojis. No explanation. Just fury. Focused. Personal. And somewhere, behind a closed door, Seth Rollins read those words. And for the first time in his career, he didn't know if he'd be welcomed back through Gorilla. Because what Becky Lynch lost wasn't just a husband. It was belief. And when a woman like Becky stops believing in you, she doesn't come back with roses. She comes back swinging. The night of Unforgiven arrived like a thunderstorm. There were no pyro packages. No flashy video montages. Just silence. Followed by the eerie echo of a single bell tolling through the arena. And then Becky Lynch walked out. But this wasn't the man. Not the trailblazer. Not the warrior with fire in her voice. This was something different. Colder. Sharper. Her eyes were steel. Her gear was black. Jet black. No slogan. No logo. Just her. Stripped bare. Ready to wage war. The crowd erupted, but not with joy. With awe. The kind of roar reserved for legends returning from exile. She didn't acknowledge them. She didn't pose. She just walked, slowly, with purpose, like every step she took was a sentence in a closing argument. And then came Rhea Ripley. The nightmare emerged through smoke, unshaken, unbothered, her championship slung over her shoulder, not because it was on the line, but because she wanted it seen. Because to her, this wasn't a grudge match. It was a power play. A demonstration that she had already taken everything, and would now take more. They didn't shake hands. They didn't lock up. They stared. Becky's eyes glistened, not with tears, but with rage. A fury that had fermented for months into something more dangerous than heartbreak. Something surgical. Focused. Pure. And then she struck. No bell. No referee. Just a scream as she lunged across the ring and tackled Rhea into the corner. Fists flying. Hair pulled. Nails scraping skin. This wasn't wrestling. This wasn't sport. It was punishment. The referee scrambled in. The bell rang late, almost meaningless now. The crowd stood, frozen, silent. Because they weren't watching a match. They were watching a woman burn down the altar where she had once placed her trust. Rhea fought back. Vicious knees. Corner elbows. That signature grin taunting Becky between every strike. She didn't back down. She welcomed it. But Becky was unrelenting. Every kick. Every slap. Every suplex was personal. And then, the moment. Rhea hit the riptide. Covered her. 1. 2. Becky kicked out. And didn't just kick out, she sat up. Slowly. Laughing. It wasn't mockery. It was defiance. It was a woman telling her rival, "You can break my body, but not the part of me you tried to steal." The match continued. Brutal. Beautiful. A clinic in catharsis. Chairs. Tables. No disqualification. It all felt symbolic. Every weapon was a metaphor for the months of silence, the gaslighting, the betrayal. Becky screamed at Rhea mid-match, "You never earned what I bled for." And Rhea whispered back, "Maybe I didn't have to." The final sequence was simple and savage. Becky wrapped a steel chain around her fist, the same chain Rhea had used in her cryptic Instagram post weeks prior, and struck her across the temple. Rhea fell. Becky didn't pin her. She climbed atop her, tears in her eyes, and stared. No count. No ref. Just silence. And then, quietly, almost like a whisper, she said, "I hope he was worth it." She stood. Walked out of the ring. Match unfinished. No winner declared. The crowd, stunned. It wasn't about victory. It was about exorcism. Backstage, WWE officials didn't know what to say. Was it a shoot? Was it scripted? Had the line finally blurred so far that even they didn't know what was real anymore? Becky didn't wait for anyone. She went straight to her locker, changed, and disappeared out the back door, alone. No press. No statement. No photo op. Just silence. Again. But this time, it wasn't weakness. It was power. And Seth? He watched it all from a monitor in a private suite. He didn't cheer. He didn't cry. He just sat there, hands steepled, eyes dark, as the woman he once called his everything tore down the last illusion of what they had been. Sources say he left quietly. Alone. No entourage. No Rhea. No one. Just a man whose empire collapsed, not with a scandal, but with a stare. And Rhea Ripley? She didn't post for 3 days. Then finally, a single story appeared on her feed, a bruised cheek. A bloodied lip. Caption, she came for answers. I gave her consequences. The WWE Universe split in half. Lines drawn. Alliances declared. Hashtag Team Becky, hashtag Team Rhea, hashtag Where is Seth? But Becky didn't play the game. She never did. She'd said what she needed to say. In fists. In silence. In truth. Because in the world of pro wrestling, titles come and go. But betrayal? That leaves scars you don't wear on your skin. You wear them in your soul. And Becky Lynch would carry hers like armor. Until the day came when she no longer had to forgive or forget. Just walk forward. Alone. Unbroken. And more dangerous than ever.